all these big famous people that we put up on all these pedestals were at one point where you're at right now.
You can create a fulfilling life as an actor.
We know how hard it can be to pursue your dreams. There's no roadmap to success in our industry, which is why we're here for you.
I'm Cynthia Corbin-Westphal, a Broadway music director, voice coach, and chair of the musical theater department at the University of Michigan.
And I'm Chelsea Wilson, a performer turned voice teacher to Broadway stars and vocal coach on Broadway, off-Broadway, and touring productions. We wear a lot of hats, but you can consider us your two-woman hype team.
Whether you're a Broadway pro, a community theater regular, or a young artist with big dreams, Broadway Vocal Coach is the place for you.
Welcome to the Broadway Vocal Coach Podcast, where we help musical theater performers create fulfilling lives and take the next step in their careers. Hi friends, Chelsea here. 1 year ago, we checked in with BVC Aspire alums Ezra Moore and Katy Olson. That was episode 34 of the podcast, if you want to go back and revisit it. And at the time, they were just about to begin their freshman year at college. Ezra is getting a BM in music theater from Oklahoma City University, and Katy Olson is getting a BA in theater and dance and a minor in music from Muhlenberg College. When I reached out to them via email to do a follow-up episode, Ezra replied in all caps, "Yes, yes, yes, I've been preparing things to say all year. I have something in my notes app just for this." Made me so happy that he had been thinking about what he had been learning and what he would want to share from freshman year. So going through the college audition process is one thing, but it's important to remember that the whole purpose is to actually go to school and study this thing that we all love. In this episode, Katy and Ezra share all the nitty-gritty about what they learned and loved about freshman year and what they're looking forward to most as sophomores. Let's get into the episode. Here we are, back again, a year later. Woohoo!
Yay.
All right, my friends, I just finished recording with two new Aspire freshmen starting their freshman years. And now I'm with you talking about your sophomore year. Oh my gosh, can you believe? Here we are. It's going to go by really fast, you guys. And by it, I mean like college. Wow, we're getting really existential really fast. Yeah. Ezra and Katy, welcome back to the BVC Podcast.
Hi.
Hi. Great
so
to be back.
Awesome to have you here. Hi, Ezra.
Hi.
Ezra, can you go ahead and introduce yourself for us, where you're from, where you're at school? Give everyone a reminder who you are and where you're at.
Hi, I'm Ezra Moore. I'm from Nashville, North Carolina. I go to Oklahoma City University, and I'm getting a BM in music theater.
Amazing. Woo-hoo. Great to have you back, Ezra. And Katy, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Katy Olson. I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm currently in school in Pennsylvania at Muhlenberg College, where I'm getting a BA in theater and dance and a minor in music.
They do it all. Both of you, you're doing it all. I love it. All right, we had you on the podcast a year ago now. Where has the time gone? Don't remind me. And we are back because you are back to school, back for your sophomore years. I want to hear how everything has gone. A year ago when we chatted, we talked all about the college audition process and getting you to this point of starting college. You've got a year under your belts and you're headed back in for year two. I am shocked. I can't believe it. And I want to hear everything. I want the whole update. Luckily, thankfully, I've gotten long emails from Ezra throughout the school year, as per usual. So I know some of the things that have happened. And Katy has also been keeping us updated. I've seen stuff on social media, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it today. What is college life really like? What are your programs like? What are you loving? What are you learning? We're going to get into all of it. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get right down to it. What was the day-to-day life of your freshman year program like? Ezra, what did that look like? Classes, academics, core classes, performance classes. What was a typical semester like for you?
It was packed. I had, on Mondays and Wednesdays of my first semester, it was 6 hours of classes in a row with no break. Yeah, that was a little stressful at times. I only had one gen ed class. It was composition, and everything else was acting or music or dance related in some way. It was still a lot of fun though. I still had time to work. I have a work-study job at my school, and a second semester I was also in a church choir. And so I still had some free time, even though there were very packed days with classes, and then sometimes rehearsals at night for 3.5 hours. That all added up to quite a lot, but it was a lot of fun. It can be very stressful, but once you get through your first semester and you don't have any of those like first year experience, becoming a freshman type classes, it does get a little bit easier and you get used to what's going on at your school.
A big learning curve, though, to just be like, you're in college. This is how we do college. Like a totally different vibe, right?
Yeah.
What was surprising to you about freshman year, like the time or the level of intensity? What was that like for you?
It was a bit of a transition, just going from so many academic classes all the time to spending most of my time doing theater-related things. But I mean, I had been going to school my whole life for 7 hours a day. And so I was used to having all these classes and then rehearsals at night. And I know there's a lot of people in high school who do 2 shows at a time and stuff like that. And so we're sort of used to having such busy schedules that we get used to it. The only thing that's really different for me, I'd say, is that everything is on campus. And so there's no real like going home at the end of the day and getting away from it all. Like you're always there. So you have to sort of find a way to get some noise canceling headphones. That's a really good thing. And find a way to sort of relax at the end of the day, even though you're still around all these same people and in the same place where you're learning and practicing and doing everything all the time.
That's a great piece of advice. Katy, what was freshman year like for you? What class schedule, rehearsal schedule? What did it look like?
Yeah, so first of all, like stellar advice from you, Ezra, about finding that spot at the end of the day where even though you're with the same people in the same space, you can still take a minute to totally just readjust and to relax. But for day to day, I would say it was more of a mix of like general education requirements because I am at a liberal arts college and performance classes. It was actually about 50-50. And part of that is because I wanted to make sure that if I was going to be taking general education courses, that they still supported what I wanted to be learning in the first place. So I thought, okay, I need to take a writing intensive. Great, love to hone those skills. Which writing intensive can I take that's going to most benefit the path I want to go down? So I took improvisation and music writing intensive. So in addition to, bettering my writing skills, creative writing skills, I also got to literally improv with a group of people. We brought in drums, we sang, and I found it didn't really feel like a general education class at all. It felt like I was working towards being a musical theater artist and a musical theater performer. And then I did have like performance in society. So that's like an introductory level class for theater performers. And so I had those core classes, but I also wanted to make sure that I set myself up with a foundation to then support those new skills. So I took a networking class. I learned how to use LinkedIn, and I got my resume that doesn't have all the theater shows, but the other kind of resume all done. So I found that my first semester, I wasn't in theater and dance classes and music classes all day, every day. But even when I wasn't, I was in classes that still were getting me where I wanted to go. And then by second semester, I was in like 5 dance classes. I was in a music theory class, and I had almost no general education requirements that semester because I decided that I wanted to do some of those over the summer.
Wow. So it sounds like you were really intentional about, okay, I know I have these core requirements for academic classes. I'm going to A, make them work for me, and B, do some over the summer online.
Yes. So Muhlenberg doesn't have American Sign Language right now. And I knew that if I wanted to do this cultural language requirement, I wanted to continue with American Sign Language, which is what I did in high school, because that's a really great skill. And I love to be able to communicate with people. So I took a class at a community college over the summer, and my mom actually took it too. So we practiced together. It was great.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And now those credits will just transfer over to Muhlenberg.
Right, because if I'm spending all this money, right, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, I want to learn what I want to learn and not just take a class because I have to.
I think that is stellar advice. You are so right. Like maximizing that opportunity to fill some of those core requirements elsewhere, community college, at home, like online. Wow, I love that. That's amazing. Okay, which brings me to my next question, like the fun stuff. Did you participate in any performances as a freshman? Let's get into it. Ezra, give me the scoop.
Yes. Okay. So the big performances, the shows, I was in the ensemble of Light in the Piazza first semester. Then, and then second semester, I was in a Gilbert and Sullivan opera and a student-run/student written jazz opera. So, yeah,
Wow, what
those
a
were
range of experiences.
yeah. And so that was very different stuff right there, going from Ensemble of Light in the Piazza that doesn't really do a lot to one of the most involved characters in the opera there to a new work that we had 3 weeks to put completely together. So lots of different experiences, but on top of that, so many other performance opportunities, lots of choir concerts. There was someone I knew who is a composition major and he had a recital. And so I had to learn this like 8-minute scene in a week with like stunts and like catching a cake and all that. And so helping people out with their recitals. Sometimes I would play piano for people in practice rooms, which isn't really a performance, but still is something. And so there was just always something going on that we were preparing for, even if it was just choir every day for our concert. There was always so much going on of many different types of things. Also, just like acting classes, I count that as performances because you still have to memorize lines and perform for people, even if it's just for a class.
Yes. Totally. And that's a good way to think about it too, is like, I am performing my scene today. I have practiced. Here we go. And you think at your university, Ezra, I mean, it's a music school. You're getting a Bachelor of Music. So it sounds like there's really a ton of opportunities collaborating with other departments within the music department. Like you're talking about this opera and this new jazz work and all of these things. Like, what is the collaboration like that's particularly musical that you find there at Oklahoma?
I find that because there is such a music emphasis also in our classes, we have a lot of theory classes that we have to take, a lot of musicology classes. I find that there is a very good overlap between the vocalist and the instrumentalist. There's obviously going to be a bit of a separation because we don't have so many classes together, but the fact that we are all in the same school and that we do have a few classes together, there is a good mix of everyone working together. I know there's a jazz band that has vocalists and there were just auditions for that. A lot of people have other instruments in like their senior recitals. And so they get their trumpet playing friend to come in and play for one song and stuff like that. So I find that there is a good mix of everyone that I didn't get in high school because my high school didn't have a band or an orchestra or anything like that. And so it's really nice getting to meet all these different people who are outside of just the vocal track that I'm in right now.
I love that spirit of collaboration. Katy, performance experiences, what was your freshman year like?
Okay, so I'm going to preface this with two things because I never believed it would have happened. But I did two things that worked out in the most unexpected, amazing, life-changing way. So the first thing was I got on campus and I networked like crazy. I went to the club fair. I met the upperclassmen who would be directing shows. I invited a theater professor who I didn't know out to lunch. Okay, so that was the first thing.
Why am I not surprised literally at all, Katy? Sounds great. Love it.
And the second thing I did was, thanks to BVC Academy, one of the units was learn your dream role music. Learn it now. Because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity and you might as well be prepared. So I had this dream. Okay, you're already going to guess probably what happened by the point I tell this part of the story. But I wanted to play Small Allison in Fun Home like so bad. And so I'm 5'1". I had a good chance in like maybe a high school setting, but no high school ever did that show. And I thought, okay, I'm not, when am I ever going to get to play that role as a college student and beyond? But I learned it anyway. I thought you never know when your dream role is going to come up, even though I feel like I've outgrown this role. I learned Ring of Keys. I played it on the piano the summer before. I was always singing it around the house. Sure enough, I get to campus and they're doing Fun Home. And I was like, what? And so I figured out who the director was, and I like followed around like, hey, are you still looking to cast? Because I was a first year and they didn't have information. I was like, oh, I was wondering if you're like still gonna cast small Allison or whatever. And I just kind of put it out there. I said I'd love to audition, and they said, yeah, audition information's coming out this weekend. So I auditioned with a song I worked on in BVC Academy and a monologue I did, which happened to fit Fun Home perfectly for my college auditions, also from BVC Aspire.
Wow.
Yes.
Look at you go.
Yes. And so then I was like so in disbelief. I opened the cast list and like there it was. I was playing small Allison and I was so over the moon. I'm like, what? The work works. Like it actually worked. Because there's a lot of no's, but this time it was a yes. And I was really happy to get a yes so early on.
That is incredible. Was that first semester or second semester? When did that happen?
First semester. So
first semester. Out of the gate, you're like, I'm done with college. I can graduate now. My dreams are fulfilled.
Yes, I jokingly say that if that's the only role I ever play again, I will have felt like I succeeded. But obviously, I still want to play Matilda. We'll see.
Yes, I would love that.
You know, I also Rumpelteazer and Cats, but that's how I met like so many people, right? We're going to be in Cats today one day, someday. So that is how my previous experience led me to get this. And it's not because I'm so great or I'm so unique. It's because I did the work that led up to this. And then one other thing about this story is, I'm sure everyone who's listening to this podcast may have heard this in some form, but like when you walk into an audition room, you should think, I'm the answer to the problem, like the problem of who you're going to cast. Sometimes that's actually true. And it is actually true because in a college full of people who look like college students, you can bring something unique if you don't, or if you do, if you look older. So it was at the end of the production process, the director told me, we didn't know who we were going to cast, but we wanted to do this show. And when we saw your audition, the problem was solved. So you never know if you're going to have that one special thing that actually does solve their problem of casting. So believe it.
That's incredible. And the thing I love too is that you're kind of bringing it back to that lesson of like, learn your dream roles now, which I say all the time to my clients who are like in voice lessons with me or in our, BVC classes, or like you said, that's like a whole unit in BVC Academy, which you two were part of when we ran it live many years ago. You're like the original BVC Academy folks, but now it's an online course and anyone can work through it at any time. But yeah, that's something we talk about in there is like, learn your dream roles now, because one day you might show up and realize, oh, they're auditioning for this tomorrow. Good thing I learned it. And I know I'm right for this. Like, I love that internal belief that you had, that you were like, I know this is a role for me. I know I'm right for this. I'm really going to put myself out there in going for it. And wow, look at how that paid off. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for letting me tell that story, because I still can't believe it happened.
I love that. I'm curious, are both of you finding there's like a good mix of student-led opportunities, student-run productions versus university productions, college productions, like put on by the departments? And what are your goals in either of those realms? Curious too, like, is there a requirement that you audition for department productions or not? I know when I went to school, like we were required to audition for all the university productions. And then once those cast lists went out, we could audition for, student run projects and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, what's that like at your school? Katy?
So my school has so many more opportunities than they can even advertise on the website. So I was thrilled about that when I came. And it's a really good mix of student run versus like faculty departmental productions. So just this week, I auditioned for 2. One was a dance show, one was a musical through the department. And then this coming week, I'm auditioning for 2 dance shows that are student run. So like there's so much in addition to the comedy groups and a cappella groups, which are also student run. You can't even audition for it all.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Ezra, what about you?
Yeah, I think in these last 2 weeks, tomorrow will be my 10th audition. There's so many things. You do have to audition for the school run shows, which for us, it's a main stage musical, a spotlight musical, which is the smaller stage, and then a main stage opera every semester. But then there's a student run musical, there's a student run opera, there's multiple improv groups. There's an a cappella group. I know there's a student dance show, as I was saying, other student written things, and just a lot of freedom for people to just say, hey, let's sing some stuff sometime and just have some fun. And even if it's not like a big audition day thing, there's still so much stuff to do and so many ranges of things of you go in and you sing your 3-minute song, or you're waiting around for 6 hours at callbacks. True story.
Oh, that's the truth.
There's a big range of things to audition for, and also just audition experiences.
That seems to be the magic of school, in my opinion. Like, you've got these 4 years where you are just surrounded by creative people, and you've got resources available to you to make creative things happen, like spaces. Literally just like, oh, here's like a classroom we could use to do a workshop of something. We can rent out the theater because it's not being used that weekend. Let's put on a production of this, right? And like, the more you can take advantage of those opportunities, it's just magic. I mean, there's really no other time like this with the resources that you've got in a college environment. That kind of brings me to my next question. When it comes to adjusting to college life, I'm curious, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced adjusting to college life, whether that's academically, artistically, and or socially? Were there things that you had to figure out? What were those challenges like? Katy?
Okay, so I come from a self-directed high school education, so I do have a diploma and everything, but that meant that I always got to take courses I was interested in, and similarly to college, could pick out of a plethora of courses what I wanted to do for my math requirement, what I wanted to do for my PE. So when I got to college, I found that it wasn't as big an adjustment as it can be, because I was already used to the self-directed deadlines. I was already used to that, which was a very big privilege and advantage. So that was one thing that was a lot easier. But one of the differences coming from a self-directed education is, in my particular self-directed education, we did not put a big focus on grades. We put a big focus on process. And so when I came here, and about half the professors were saying, this is a process-based class. And the other half was saying, if you write this paper like this, this, and this, that's how you get an A. I felt a little torn, because I wanted to get what I went into the course to get out of the course, not just memorize stuff to get an A. And while grades are important, I wanted to walk away with the skills, not the grade to say I did it. Now, just any homeschoolers out there, I did get all A's and make the dean's list, so you can do it. Even if people are asking you your whole life, you can't succeed as a homeschooler, you can. But I found myself increasingly frustrated with some professors who would explain to you how to get the grade, but not how to learn. So that was
fascinating.
But I did find more courses as I went on. I found more courses that were process-based, and I like those a lot better.
Yeah. Ezra, anything for you when it came to the academic adjustment to college?
So in high school, I was very much an academic person. I'm very much a math person. I was always like top 3 in the class. And it was a big shift going from all these academic classes and then rehearsal at night to basically rehearsal all day long. And so that was definitely a shift, because we usually do gen eds like senior year here, do more of the artistic classes first and then the more academic ones later on. And so only having my comp class, it was sort of refreshing not having all of these academic classes and sort of inventing a new me that wasn't so focused on the math and the English and everything. But it was also a weird change, just shifting from the things that I felt so confident in to not being able to do that as much anymore. But that did give me more freedom to focus on the artistic side of things and focus on singing and acting more than I was able to in high school.
Yeah, great point. So when it comes to those artistic endeavors, I'm hearing from you, Ezra, like, wow, look at all of this time during the day. Like, this is the core focus of my study, right? Katy, what was that adjustment like for you with your background? Like, doing a lot more of this, especially like you said, second semester when you got into a ton of the dance classes, a ton of the performance classes. Like, what was that adjustment like for you?
So the first semester, like I said, was about 50-50. And I adjusted okay to that. It wasn't my ideal. My ideal was mostly process-based and movement-based classes because sitting for long periods of time is not my thing. But if I can run around while you lecture me, absolutely.
What was the adjustment like training your performance skills in a college environment at that level? Did that feel different?
Absolutely. It felt different. So training at the college level was super cool and super fun. But like Ezra said, like getting to do the performance-based classes in the day was kind of unique and interesting. For me, that felt pretty similar because I got to design my education. So I had a lot of performance classes in the day. That was great. But the college classes, even though we're a small campus, were bigger and I got to interact with more people. So that was really fun. But for anybody out there who is a really intense hard worker like I am, and you just like a no nonsense when you're in the room focused, one challenge and one difference between doing the performance classes within a smaller group of like, you know, my siblings and a dance class that I took versus in a bigger group where everybody's taking a ton of classes and this is just one part in their day. One of the big differences was that not everybody had the same mentality. And I remember when I was going through the college audition process, one of my mentors, I said, I just can't wait to get to a space where everybody works super hard and super intense. And he said, Katy, I'm sorry to let you down, but you have to let go of that because there are going to be times when you're going to be the most motivated in the room. And so for anyone out there who's listening, who is really intense in your training, it can be frustrating, but you have to just like focus on yourself and put your energy into it and not focus on if other people want to be there or not. It's that you want to be there. So that was a big difference.
That's a really great point to make, Katy, because there's a couple things there. I think like people have a lot of different learning styles. So somebody like maybe that particular class isn't somebody's cup of tea, but also like you're saying, like some people really want to dive in and get every little ounce of experience out of that class. And maybe someone else is preoccupied with something else, you know? So you're totally right. You're in this arena where I bet it's probably safe to say everyone's really passionate about performing in musical theater, but like in a classroom setting, people show up really differently. That's an interesting point to make. You're totally right. Like it's not just going to be you 10 times over in that class. Do you,
Right.
You were nodding your head a little bit, Ezra. Did you experience anything similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, so going to college for MT, pretty much everyone is used to being the best in their program in high school generally. And so some people take that change differently, definitely from...
It's a delicate way of saying that.
Yes.
You're totally right. Yes.
Yeah, because there's definitely some people who, like me, it's sort of like, oh, everyone here is really good. I want to work really hard to live up to these expectations that the juniors and seniors have set. And then some people don't really want to make that transition and assume they can sort of work at that high school level to keep succeeding. And that's usually not the case, at least especially not in the professional world. So it's good to have a work ethic. That definitely makes you stick out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, Katy.
And like what you were saying, Chelsea, about different learning styles, 100%, because there are going to be classes that work really well for me that I get to move around in, but like also having grace for other people when they're in a class where moving around is scary to them. They might excel in a different class. So just being with so many different people and different learning styles, again, that was my whole education, so I was pretty used to that. But I found it fascinating to see what other professors would do. Would they be accepting of somebody who needed to wiggle, or would they make something more body-based for somebody who did that? Or would they make a writing option? So I thought it was really great how you brought up learning styles, because I feel like that's a new topic that is just going mainstream.
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially in the performance world and like performance degrees, there's obviously a doing aspect to that, no matter whether your performance degree is in like oboe or dance, like you have to do the thing. But there is still all these other ways that we're learning and inputting information, right? We have to write things, we have to listen to things, we have to blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious how like your particular programs will develop over the next few years, or like how you will adjust to finding what is the best way that you learn and what is the best way that you show up in all of these classes. Okay, Ezra, a little bit of what you said made me think, okay, social adjustments to college. And this is a huge topic, right? Like being away from home for the first time, making new friends, finding your place within the group, but within your cohort, making friends inside the department, outside of the department. Like, what has that been like for you?
I had a little bit of experience with this because I did a summer camp right after my junior year that was on a college campus, sort of set up like college classes. And so I had had a month of my life where I was living away from home and around all these new people. And so I had a little bit of experience with that. And so the transition was a lot easier than it could have been, but it is still very different for a lot of people. And a big thing to remember is that everyone else is learning how to transition to this new part of their life, and let them grow and give them time to get acclimated to where they are. Don't make lifelong assumptions about them in the first few weeks of school, because you will change and they will change.
Yeah, amen to that. Me and Katy are both nodding our heads. Yes, yes. Yeah, that is some really important grace to offer yourself and the students around you, for sure. Katy, what's that been like for you?
Well, that was just a really empathetic way to put it, Ezra. I love that. They're changing and I'm changing. Don't make assumptions in the first 2 weeks. That's beautiful. When I got there for orientation, I was in heaven. You're like, there are all these people. I've got Starbursts in my pocket and I can just hand it to them. They might never even see me again. And they might never know who to. I could just be like, hey, good to meet you. Here's Starburst. My name's Katy. And so I met a lot of friends that way. And I also rode my scooter around so I could get places like doubly as fast. And I just go for scooter rides and introduce myself to people. And that worked really well for me because I'm an extrovert. And there was just this whole campus of people at my disposal. And it was so exciting. I got like 50 people's numbers and Instagram, all the connection ways. And oh my gosh, I loved it. And then coming back this semester, there's even more people who I get to meet now. And like, I found a couple other friends who are also learning American Sign Language. And wow, I was in heaven. But the caveat to that was I had to say no because I made so many friends. So there's like, hey, you want to get lunch today? You want to get, no, my gosh, there were too many like invitations. And I assumed that it was like that on the other end too, because I'd be like, hey, is today a good day for lunch? And other people who were super outgoing would be like, man, I just can't swing it today. So it was fun and utterly exhausting.
Wow. I can't even imagine meeting that many people in one day, but for you, I can. That's incredible. Amazing. That's my new go-to. I'm just going to like carry around treats, be like, hi, my name's Chelsea. They'll never forget me then. Sounds amazing.
Right.
Being away from family, was that something that either of you had to just navigate that amount of time? I mean, Katy, you weren't too far distance-wise from your family. Like, did you get home? Ezra, I know, is a bit more of a distance. Like, you're not just going to like drive home on the weekend kind of distance for you, right? So like, what was that? What was that like your first year?
I mean, it was very different, but as I said, I had some experience with that. And I mean, we have Skype now. So it's not too bad, really. It's definitely a very different just from where I grew up on a farm to now musical theater every day. That's honestly the bigger transition, is just everyday life in general. But it wasn't too hard for me, really.
You were like, I will willingly go and do musical theater every day. I'll see the farm later.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Katy, what about you?
I would really miss the animals if I lived on a farm. Is yours an animal farm, Ezra, or no?
Yeah, well, pigs, yeah.
Pigs! Oh my gosh. Well, I missed my dogs so much. That was really hard. And I would just wish that I had them. But I thought, okay, I'm not too far away. The GPS says 4.5 hours. It has never been less than 6 hours to get there. So that was not true. I didn't go home until Thanksgiving. And then until I found a friend to drive with, I just like didn't go home at all. And that was a big adjustment just because I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be that way. Like I thought they would be able to come visit me and I would be able to. But my sister, my identical twin sister, who's also in college, is going to school in New York. So I could take a Greyhound and be at her place for a weekend. So that was a really big blessing. When I couldn't see my family, I could go and spend a weekend with her.
That's amazing. That's so great. How long was that bus ride?
It was like 2.5 hours, and I would just do homework on the way there and on the way back. So it ended up being pretty sustainable to do.
I love that. All right, let's talk about summertime. Summertime is wrapping up. I mean, obviously you are already back at school. It is Labor Day weekend as we're recording this. What did you do summer after your freshman year?
Well, I headed back home and I did my farm work, and I also got a job playing piano and organ at a church near me. So a little bit of a summer job. And I also did study abroad for a month doing Shakespeare in London. So that was a lot of fun and a good way to make more friends that I wouldn't really interact with, because there's really not that much overlap between the MT and acting students at my school, just because we're in different buildings most of the time. And so this was a really good way to meet more of these acting majors. And it's helping me make connections with them and then connections with more acting majors and all that. And so even if you can't do study abroad, I will say make friends with acting majors and all these other majors, because you'll be able to make friends with their friends. And it's good to meet a lot of people outside of your major too.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. Katie, what about you? What were you up to this summer?
Okay, well, that sounds like a really fun study abroad experience. I would like to do that at some point. So this summer, I took the advice that I got from Jim Van Valen 2 years ago, before I even applied to Muhlenberg. He's a theater professor here. And through the BVC Aspire, he was giving advice, sharing about the school, and saying that after your first year, you may want to jump into summer stock theater, but you can also take a summer at home. It's been a lot. Work, see your family, take a summer at home. So it would be a lot more exciting if I said, I did summer stock theater. And I did that the summer before last. And I decided after doing that jump before college, I was going to take Jim Van Valen's advice and I was going to stay home and not do a summer stock theater summer, because it was really intense and it was fun, but it was really intense. So I stayed home and I reconnected with my siblings. We're all really close in age and best friends. So I have a pet care business that I started when I was 12, and it's still going on. And that's how I'm actually paying partly for college. So I started doing overnights at clients' houses and reconnecting with all my favorite clients, the dogs in the neighborhood, coaching people on training their dogs. And then I also got a job as a party princess and as a venue. So that was fun. I got to act and sing a little bit and play. And I took a lot of trips to New Hampshire to see my grandparents. So it was a very restful summer where I worked, but I did things I enjoyed. And I also prepared for the 4 campus jobs I now have.
4.
I am
Katy
so
is busy.
Maybe
Amazing.
too busy. I don't even know how it happened.
Wow. I need the update at the end of the semester if we're still in those 4 jobs or what. If an adjustment is made.
We'll see. One of them, I work at the makerspace, so I get to make cool stuff. I'm a personal assistant to the person who runs the makerspace, and she's like very entrepreneurial, cool. And I'm an entrepreneur, so it's perfect. And then I'm a tour guide, and I'm on the executive board. So they're like 4 jobs, but in only 2 areas, so it's doable so far.
Okay. Well, listen, I will never underestimate either of you. But Katy, like, your energy knows no bounds. Truly amazing. That's awesome, Katy. I did the same thing after my freshman year. I went home for the summer, and similarly, I'm very entrepreneurial. And I think that summer was the first summer I like really started teaching voice lessons to like people in town. I was like, okay, I'm going to just like, I had started doing some teacher training stuff online and remotely. And so like that summer, my dad was like, you should put together like this like summer voice summer camp thing. And I was like, okay. So I remember I printed out flyers and like stuck them in car windows, like on people's windshields. I like papered an entire parking lot, like advertising, like I'm doing this vocal summer camp, blah, 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 blah. And that's what I did the summer after my freshman year. I like put on this summer camp and was home, and I loved that. And, you know, when it comes to like what you do in those summers, gosh, there's no right or wrong answer. I think I did summer stock one summer, the summer between my junior and my senior year. I got a summer stock job. And then otherwise, I did a study abroad one summer, and I think I was like home those other 2 summers. Gosh, I can't remember. But that's awesome. That's so great. I think that's so beautiful. I'm curious, one more question for you guys. Now that you're a year plus into college and you think back on your college audition experience, would you give any advice differently now that you're like a year into school? Like you've got some more perspective on like your particular program or just what being a musical theater or a theater major is, would you offer the same advice from a year ago to people who are maybe starting the college audition process or thinking about majoring in theater or musical theater? What do you think?
So I may have said something like this last time, and I can only go off what my experience is, but I was so set on being in BFA program when I first started, and I thought that's the only way I'm gonna be around a hardworking environment, and that's the only way I'm gonna get the skills. But I very quickly realized that was not the case at all, thanks to BVC Aspire. And I was afraid it was going to be this sort of thing where, like, if you don't get into a BFA, there's still a BA. It's not. It is not like that at all. So what really helped me was not what do I want to be able to say I did? Do I want to be able to say I graduated at a really super fancy, and it's great if you do. It's great if you go to a really high-end musical theater school, but do I want to be able to say I did that or go to the school that is best for me? So it turns out some of the greatest schools in the country for musical theater weren't actually a best fit for me. And here's why. I stopped and I looked, what do I want to actually get out of these 4 years? I want to be in Cats the Musical eventually, right? So what do I need for that? Dance experience. And what is a musical theater program that's strictly musical theater going to get me? Musical theater experience with a little bit of dance. Here at Muhlenberg, I'm a theater and dance major with a minor in music, all the ingredients for a musical theater major, right? But I can take so many dance classes, and I never would have imagined that in 1 year I'd make it this far. So they have tutors here, dance tutors. I enrolled in Ballet 1, and this semester I'm in Ballet 3. This time last year, I took my first ever jazz dance class, and now I'm in Jazz 4. I'm doing what I came here to do.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, that's why. So really think about, what do you want? Do you want to level up your voice? Do you want to level up your dance? What do you want to be good at? And find a school that supports that skill, not just a curriculum that says they're going to teach you it all.
Oh, amen. I'm so glad that a year into your program, you still feel like you found the right fit for you and that you're getting the kind of training that you need. Because I do remember you saying something similar last year and like, look, your freshman year has literally proven this concept. Like, amazing. I'm so happy for you, Katy. Ezra, any advice that you'd give now a year into college to folks who are maybe looking to go down this path?
I mean, similar, when you're doing college auditions, there's like so much stress about what school is good and all that sort of stuff. And I found that here I don't have so much focus on like, oh, this is a safety school, so it's bad. Like, there's so many different schools that exist, and some people from those schools are on Broadway, and some people are at Disney, and some people from your school are on Broadway, and some people are at Disney. And there's not this big feeling of, oh, that's a good school and that one isn't. It's sort of, we're all musical theater students, and we're all learning the same things in different places, in different ways, but we're all working towards the same goal, even if we'll never meet. And so there's not all this big focus about, oh, this is the school. It's sort of, we're all doing the same thing here.
Oh, I love that perspective. You're so right. Like, in the audition and application process, all you can think about is like, okay, which school is, quote, better or more competitive or all of this. But you're so right. Once you actually get in it and you're at school, no one gives that a second thought. You're just like all doing the same thing. And especially because a lot of schools that have performing arts programs have musical theater programs, acting programs, there's probably other programs in your cities, right? Or like really nearby. And I remember something I loved about college was like driving down to Ohio and meeting the kids who were at CCM, or we went to one summer, we all went down to St. Louis and auditioned for the Muni in St. Louis, right? I met so many other people who were studying at different schools my year. I remember moving to New York City, and sure, you might move to New York City with your graduating class, like, okay, my Michigan graduating class or whatever. You move to New York City, and so does everyone else from around the country, and all of those people, like, it's MT12. Like, everyone who graduated in 2012, like, we became friends. They were all the people I was seeing at the auditions. We formed a book club together. We had dinner dates together. Like, I met all the other people who had been doing this thing for 4 years once we graduated. And that's what the business is like, right? Like, it's not like we're all trying to, I don't know, no one's thinking about which program, blah, 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 blah. You're just doing the thing finally, which is amazing. Amazing to finally get to that point where you're like, I can just do the thing. We're all doing the thing.
I love that, Ezra. It makes me feel so connected to everybody else. It's a neighboring school. I see their post on Instagram. I met them during the audition process, and I see they're in a show every once in a while or in voice lessons, and I think, hey, we're doing the same thing. And when you said that, I'm just picturing like that quote on a t-shirt with a bunch of bubbles of different schools all connected doing the same thing. I love it, Ezra.
Wow, I want to see that piece of artwork. That can be the cover art for this podcast episode. Can't wait. You guys, before we wrap up, and first of all, thank you. This has been such an amazing conversation. But any other words of advice or lessons learned from your freshman year now that you're headed into your sophomore year of college? Any final thoughts?
One thing that's really changed for me is how I view pieces of art and the people in them, I guess is a good way to say it. Like, it's hard to just watch a movie now. You sort of analyze all the acting in it and you're sort of like taking notes in your head. And another part of that is sort of celebrities, I guess I'd say. I think of how I acted at the stage door, seeing shows in high school versus now. So there's someone in my class who was one of the original National Tour Matildas. And I didn't know that until January because she never talked about it. She didn't want to brag about it or anything. And that was sort of when it clicked with me that all these people that you're seeing on stage were you at one point. And all these big famous people that we put up on all these pedestals were at one point where you're at right now. And it sort of changed how I view all these things, but honestly for the better, because now I really appreciate all the work that they've done to get where they are. And it's very inspiring to think about. Well, for example, I saw Titanic, and one of the cast members in that, we have the same voice teacher. And so he was literally in my exact position just a few years ago. And so it's very much changed how I view Broadway and theater and the people in them. But it really helps me appreciate how much effort goes into all these things that we see.
Amen to that. Katy?
That just made me think actors, they're just like us. Like, that's great. Okay, on a very different note that's not so much musical theater, writing thank you notes. I wrote a lot of thank you notes, whether somebody just like helped me in IT or for an audition. And that helped me to kind of slow down and think like, hey, this opportunity that I wanted actually did just happen. So I wrote a lot of thank you notes and I met a lot of people that way, stayed in touch with people that way, whether they were faculty members or even like fellow students who gave me a tour or who played piano for me so I could sing. And that helped me realize I am living the dream that I want to be living right now.
Something that I'm hearing in what both of you just shared is this realization of like, I'm living the dream, or like I'm on the path to my dreams. This realization that the industry or Broadway, this thing that we've put on a pedestal for so many years, especially as young people, as young artists, that seems in a way so far away, or these people that, Ezra, like you're saying, have been put on a pedestal. I don't know, getting this education and being able to work with other actors and work with professors who are working in the industry and taking a break to go direct a tour or direct a whatever, being able to be in those environments is just a great equalizer. Oh, we're all trying to do this craft of acting and singing and doing it at a really high level and reaching people through our art and building community. Like, we're all just kind of trying to do the same thing. And I feel like college is just like that next step that helps you realize, oh, wow, this I'm on my way to doing this for my career, just like all these people that I've admired for so long. I love that you're having this experience. I love that you're headed into an amazing sophomore year. It sounds like you've got things cooking already. Anything in particular that you're looking forward to this semester?
So this is one silly thing that was outside of theater and dance and music, because I made sure to give myself things that were not just that, so it didn't get stale or like all the time doing it, and I got felt more like unfun work instead of fun work. So I gave myself other things to do, and me and a couple of friends did a free hug campaign, and I stood on campus with a big sign that said free hugs, because also, like, yeah, I know a lot of people, I have a lot of friends, it's great, but I'm still so darn lonely sometimes. So, like, you're away from home, sometimes you just need a hug. So I stood out there with a sign, and I had people watching to make sure, because I also had a blindfold, that nobody did anything, but I stood there with my sign, and can you guess how many hugs we gave out that day?
You did this for one day. I'm going to guess
2 hours. 2 hours.
2 hours. 400.
Oh, no. Wait,
that would be a lot.
No, our campus, I should have prefaced, is 1,900.
Oh, wow. That would have been a big percentage. Let's say like 40.
87.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to doing that again, because it can be lonely. And I just think it's silly and fun, and it's not theater or dance or music. It's just taking this opportunity on a relatively safe campus to do something that I might never have an opportunity to do again. Fun stuff like that.
I love that, Katy. Ezra, what about you? Anything you're particularly looking forward to this semester?
Just seeing how it all plays out. I'm still waiting for results on a bunch of auditions and callbacks and stuff. It's a stressful first 2 weeks, and I'm excited, well, mainly to meet all the freshmen. I'm starting to gradually talk to them more. And of course, I miss the seniors from last year, but it's nice to meet all these new people and see how different they are from our class, just all the different experiences they've had. And with a relatively big freshman class, there's a lot of people to meet, and it was fun talking to them during auditions. And now I'm going to be in a show with some of them. And so it's fun to meet all these new people.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining me again. I vote we do it again next year. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yes, please. That would be lovely.
Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for this conversation. And I'll catch you again soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Broadway Vocal Coach Podcast. I hope it's inspired you to take action towards your big dreams. Head to the episode description for our show notes where you can connect with our guests, snag our freebies, and take our quiz. Head to bwayvocalcoach.com to see how you can work with us and take the next step in your career. While you're here, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Talk soon, friend.